Okay, this is the second part of section 7.1, and I think you may like it a little better than the first part. We will do problems 31 through 47 odd, and we will know the answer. It's like the first part. The only difference is we know the answer before we start. Let's do number 31. Now, my form is going to look a little different than theirs, but it's actually the same thing. We're going to work down one side and end up with the other side. Before I ever start, and I want you to write it in the form I do it, not quite the examples I give is very similar to mine, but I want you to write it in my form. Before I ever start, I'm going to work down this side until I end up getting cosine for the simplified form. Before, don't have this, I'm going to work it, I'm going to get an answer of cosine theta. My last step is going to be this. Cosine theta is equal to cosine theta. And you might ask, well, why is the three little lines? Well, I haven't seen that in the book in many years. However, I like it that way. That's kind of like saying therefore. Sometimes in proof, and I don't think they do this in geometry anymore, but used to, even in high school geometry, they used to work the thing out in the proof, and then the last step they'd say therefore this equal to that. Abstract algebra classes, other classes where they do proofs, a lot of times on their last step they put this. So I like to put the three little lines at the end. Again, before I ever start, this is going to be what I end up with. And we know that. A lot of people like that. So I'm going to erase this. Now we're going to work down either this side or this side. Either side will work. Now, what we want to do is pick the most complicated side to work on and end up with the simplest side. Looks to me like this is the most complicated, so I'm going to work on the left side. May very well, most of the time, that will be the left side, but it doesn't have to be. So I'm going to work down the left side. All right, I'm going to simplify this thing. Does anything jump out at me? No, it doesn't. Therefore, I'm going to change everything to sine and cosine, just like we did on the simplification in the first part of the section. So I've got sine theta over, and tan we know is sine theta over cosine theta. We're going to put equal after each of the steps. I know that divide means to multiply by the reciprocal, so I have sine theta times, and the reciprocal of this would be cosine theta over sine theta. I see that the sine thetas cancel out, leaving me cosine theta, and that's what we're looking for. Just like I told you before we started, what's the last line going to be? Well, it's going to be this simplified form, cosine theta equal to this. Now, some people may say, well, I know what the final deal is, the final line. I'll just write that down and put some stuff in between and fool me. I've got a feeling I'll figure out if you're trying to fool me or not. So work down this side. Okay, let's do another one. And by the way, I'm being facetious. I know nobody in here would try to take advantage of the teacher. Let's do number 37. That looks like a pretty good one, especially because it has something I want to get across to you. Now let's make sure I have that written correctly. Cosine of negative x minus sine of negative x equals cosine x plus sine x. Shortest problem you're going to have on homework. Look at the last line on the fundamental identities. We said that cosine that's reciprocal are even functions. That means that cosine of negative x is the same thing as cosine of x minus. We know that sine of negative x, that's an odd function. We look down at the last line, it says that sine of negative x is negative sine of x, like so. Negative, a negative is positive, so that gives me that cosine x plus sine x, and that's what we were looking for. and we're finished. We have the identity. Again, before we ever started, we knew that the last line was going to say cosine x plus sine x, three little slashes in our equal sign, cosine x plus sine x. And we knew the answer before we started, but you've got to show me in steps what that is. Let's do another one. And let's see, what do we want to do? Pick out a good one. Let's do 41. All right, let's make sure I got it written correctly. 1 minus cosine, 1 plus cosine equal to 1 over cosecant squared. Again, we want to work on the most complicated side. I think it's fairly obvious that this looks the most complicated. Even though it's in cosine and this is not, we're going to work down. I could work down from this side and get it, but I think you'll be better off working from this side before I ever start. I know that's going to be my last step. When I get through, this is my last step. We know it before we start. That's the thing that makes this a little easier than what we did in the first part of the section. Okay, so we're going to start on this side, and we're going to end up with that side. Hopefully something is jumping out at you right now. We said unless something jumps out, we change everything to sine and cosine. Well, something's jumping out. You know, I could have come over here and changed this thing right here. We know that this is 1 over sine squared, and I could work it on that side. But this should be just jumping out like an old sore thumb. It all jump out at you. Difference of squares. So I know that I have 1 minus cosine squared beta, like so. Told you we're going to use this sine squared plus cosine squared. We keep using it. Keep writing over here to the side. We got sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equal 1. And we keep using the thing where sine squared theta is equal to 1 minus cosine squared theta. And we use it more in this form than we do in this form that it's given on our sheet. So I see 1 minus cosine squared. 1 minus cosine squared is sine squared. Like so. Sine and cosecant are inverse functions, so sine squared is the same thing as 1 over cosecant squared. And we have the exact same thing that we have over here. And so we have our identity like so. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there and let you guys work again. What did we say we were going to go through? 49. Okay, so work all those through 49. If there's a problem that you run across, you're going to send it to me. If I don't see you before then, I will see you in a couple of days, and we will start on our next assignment. Guys, take care of yourself. Stay out of crowds. Keep your hands washed. Use sanitizer. You guys be careful. See you later.